hours of driving,
You won't be doing that.
you know, without a meeting was enough for me. I think I would spend the night.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 5:30. Establish a quorum. Roll call to my right.
Carl Sutherland here.
Putman here.
You weren't here.
Thatcher here.
Harris here.
King here.
All right, let it be shown that we have a quorum. Do we have any public comments? Let it be shown we have no public comments, so we'll move to item 4. Presentation discussion on action to convey the property at 1100 Gilmer Road and East FM 852.
This is the conveyance of the Carroll property to the city so that we can finalize reimbursement. Deadline for this is April 30th.
Do we need discussion? Does everybody understand?
Sure.
Okay.
Do we have questions?
Did the new members understand?
I have no questions. I've read about it.
Okay.
I move to approve conveying the property at 1100 Gilmer Road, Winnsboro, to the city of Winnsboro.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Action to award a commercial real estate and advisory firm.
At the last meeting that we couldn't have, we discussed just kind of give you guys some updates about some contacts that I had made and kind of got some direction on how you wanted me to go. Finding someone who did everything we needed, what I thought we needed to do for the Key Energy property was pretty difficult. No one offered the same thing, so it's difficult to bring you all proposals that compared the services identically. I'm really thankful that we went the direction we did because it allowed me the opportunity
ideally, we sell, I think we need to know what we don't want. So if there are things we don't want next to City Hall or on Main Street, we should say that and then market the property and let it sell to somebody who's gonna do anything but aside from the things we don't want it to be there. You know what I mean? I don't think we have to be the decide all of what goes in there. I think we do need to say what we don't want in there.
I don't know if we can control that if we put it on the market.
I think you can, but in talking to Travis, I think we can
Okay.
identify some parameters about, you know, what we do and or don't want. Maybe that's because we don't market to.
Through zoning?
I don't know, or just maybe it's through marketing, you know, whoever we go
Okay.
market to.
So we don't market it in the public market, we just are more specific about who goes to, okay. I did meet with a broker on site who has some ties to Winnsboro. He was one of the ones that ChatGPT just populated when I said, hey, find me firms that do what
That's
we
the
need.
Sam guy, right?
That's Sam. His recommendation when he come out was to divide the property. He said the front half of the property, which is really the part that we have no issues with, really could be its own business, and then the back half could be its own business. He said you really have the potential to do two things here, and he suggested that that's how we market it. He said you could have a hotel in the back very easily, and then have a restaurant up front, or whatever we decided we wanted. He said he sees that a lot where the hotel is in the back. But again, we have other challenges, I think, with if we talk about a hotel that we just need to consider.
I don't disagree, we've got to be sensitive to the other people that operate with, I mean, that falls right in line with our other study that we've been doing.
Yeah.
I do agree though with what Cindy's saying, just putting it out there and letting it sell and seeing what, I mean, like, yes, advertising to try to draw in where we see needs are, but not just being, this is specifically what we want.
So can you talk to me more about what, Sam didn't have that conversation with me, what would that look like? Did he talk about what?
No, I know, I think that
I
could be
meant
from
Travis.
Travis, yeah. And,
I mean, I'm very intrigued by that, if there is an opportunity there where we can be selective as who we market to, then
One
that
of,
makes sense.
one or the other, and I wanna say Travis, cause I spent more time on the phone
Uh-huh.
with Travis. He had all kinds of ideas of things like donate the property as an incentive to whatever kind of business we want in there, you know. I said, well, never thought of that, you know, you think you're gonna sell it, but maybe that's how you get who you want. That's a pretty good incentive if they don't have to buy the property, you know, to build whatever they want on there. He had a lot of good ideas. Sam was more of just a broker guy, you know, and he's just in real estate and he's looking at it purely as a real estate transaction. And Sam's idea, unless it's different since he saw it and he said you could do two things, his feeling was just looking at it that we would barely get out what we put in it. When we try to market it and sell it, that it would barely cover what we pay for it.
Well, I think the whole point of us purchasing it was to, you know.
Some control over what goes,
And even
right.
if we do that, even if we were to give it to a business that the city needs as economic development,
Right.
it's just giving us that same money in a different
Right.
power
Yes.
or different sense.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Anyway, I think Travis probably had a bigger, broader, you know,
well, and if we did it that way too, we could always, we're even taking some of their ideas, splitting half, the back half, and giving the back half to somebody because that is the half that's gonna need additional work done.
right.
And then selling the front half to a restaurant to maybe even out the cost.
For sure.
And we're getting two birds with
Right.
one stone.
Yep.
So I think finding some creative ways to market it and there's multiple ways to for development. And I think us
he told me right up front, listen, I don't do most of what you're asking for, but let me start here, let me ask you the questions that I do. And he asked me that list of questions, I couldn't answer most of what he said, so I think we'll get to the visual piece of it, but I don't know that Travis is the guy, but I will definitely ask him.
Could you send us like a form with those questions so that we can
Yeah.
compile an answer and
Yeah.
take those answers and come up with an answer for the five? Because I'm sure we all have similar answers just from hearing the way we're talking and communicating about it. But then taking that and kind of forming an answer for
Sure.
us so that
Yeah.
we can then edit that answer so that we can answer those questions.
Yeah, for sure, it's a good idea. So, do y'all want to wait until the May meeting to have Travis put something together and for y'all to get in front of them? How comfortable are y'all having him at the next special meeting? The broker?
I'm with Trevor, I'd love to hear from both of them.
Okay. I will learn.
Is there a third one?
I went up like 12. Yeah, but Sam, I liked Sam out of everybody because he had ties to Winnsboro, and he seemed very motivated to do something in Winnsboro. So he stood out to me out of all of the brokers that I worked with, or that I've talked to.
One thought,
But his
Travis
key would
might
be move the
might
property,
a little bit,
you know.
unwilling to kind of do some of the hard work on this and like preparing visuals and having stuff that can be time intensive to do that. I'm kind of thinking if he was just able to brainstorm with us on just pictures of other successful projects, he could just drag in, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Certainly stimulate our thinking.
So yeah, and I will send his website out to you all too, and you can see projects that they've done before. So that would help. That's a good idea, Carl.
And I know we're still got the training, but if there's a way to add this to our training, to ask this, when we go out to talk to our businesses that we've chosen, to ask them what maybe you think would be a good to have on our street, or
What's
maybe not that
missing,
specific,
yeah.
but what do you think's missing
Mhm.
here?
And that's why I went back to Mackenzie and asked, when we did the whole city planning thing, what did the community say that they wanted?
Back in 2021, that.
When we did that whole big thing, what were the main things that people said we were lacking?
I don't know, I gave you that, but
Yeah.
let me look. I believe quality of life was at the top of the list.
It's been a while.
So it said the strongest themes were infrastructure improvement, streets primarily, which check. And we didn't do them all, but
We did the big one.
we did the big ones.
We did the worst.
More jobs,
More, well,
so we're
more
working on
business,
that.
right?
Downtown revitalization, we're doing the DRP, and we have consistently since I've been here, we've put several $1 million into downtown, so I think we're doing good there. More retail, more restaurant, more amenities that improve the quality of life. Protecting and promoting Winnsboro's identity. Branding was something that surprisingly came up a lot in that review. I'm glad you asked me to do that, because I had reviewed it before, but it had been a while, but branding was a big part of what they were saying is our image. Better communication, transparency, follow through, secure funding and partnerships to help move projects forward.
So they want more retail, more restaurants. When you think about what would you put on the
Yeah,
property?
and quality of life,
Right.
like a cheddar.
Cracker Barrel, we need a
Yeah.
Cracker Barrel.
Yeah,
That's actually kind of fitting for this town. But we're not close to an interstate, I've never
That's
seen
what-
one off
I
there.
thought a baked chicken would be fun here.
I would
What?
love it.
Wouldn't that be neat?
Baked
And
chicken.
people drive regionally to go
Yes,
to
they
baked
do.
chicken.
Yeah, for cream
I'm
corn
not
and mashed
familiar with
potatoes.
That's right.
And mix them together, like.
And then they do the chicken dance for the little kids up front every so often. It's just a really fun engagement, and they serve it
It's
family
like
style.
family style
Right.
So many
chicken.
kids nowadays, I mean, they've never
There's
experienced
both.
that.
There's
It's
both.
just fun to have a platter of chicken cut down on your chicken.
We don't have a chicken place.
Yeah, yeah.
We need a chicken place.
I don't think they got it.
We go to
Uh,
Burger King.
so I'm guessing we won't,
I'm okay with, yeah.
vote on this
Yeah.
today.
So let me make sure that, I owe you all the hotel feasibility study, the question list. If you're interested, I can send you the leakage report that I have that shows what people are doing when they leave here.
Yes,
Yeah, that'd be
that
good.
would be good.
And then Carl, you just asked me something, and I said it was a great idea, and I didn't write it down.
It was for Travis or the other guy to present just sample pictures of projects that they like, not necessarily that they did, just things that they thought were successful.
I know where their imaging is coming from, like what they, I like that.
Exactly.
And was there asked for the form so they could?
She said the questions.
Okay. Okay, I think I have it. All right.
Right.
Are we gonna
So,
wait till the
we're-
next
Sounds like we're gonna wait.
meeting, or?
I think so.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I do too. He kept asking me, are you in a hurry? How soon do you need to do this? I'm like, no, we're actually not in a hurry. So it took us a year to get here, so definitely not been a fast project.
Yes, it did
So.
take us a long time to get here.
Okay.
All right, well, nothing further on the agenda. I'm guessing we are adjourned at 5:51.